The first time I ever shot a gun was with my friends, I want to say about a year and a half ago. My friend who's in the military took me and two others to a gun range. This was my first time. I I mean, I shot a paint gun before. We went paintballing once, but this was my first time with a real rifle. I remember I was scared the entire time we were there. All my friends were cool about it. I don't know if they've shot guns before, but I was very nervous. I don't really feel comfortable around guns. I I was there because it was my friend. We were having fun. I recorded a lot of it. Like I was probably gonna post it to YouTube, but I didn't think I didn't think I got around to editing it. But I have all the videos. Very fun experience, right? Very funny moments we had. But I remember in that moment seeing just how easy it was to use a gun. It's really straightforward. I had no courses. I watched no videos. All my friend told me how to hold it. He told me how to make sure my shoulder doesn't fucking break when I shoot it. And then there I was. I had the target in front of me and I was shooting at it. I realized right there just how easy it is to operate such a weapon, and really how easy it was to gain access to them. I really only needed my ID. I'm pretty sure my friend paid for the access to the gun and all the ammunition we used, but I just had to show my fucking ID. What happened today with Charlie Kirk? Well, I do think it was it was partially deserved. You know, at some point, when you poke the bear for so many years, at some point the bear is gonna maul you to death. You know, at some point. But I do think it is quite ironic how very much against him and his whole party were about gun control, gun restrictions. I do think it's quite ironic that he is a victim of gun violence. I do think hopefully now they maybe understand the the fucking danger that comes with these weapons, and maybe through the death of a large talking figure in that space, maybe that will convince them that we need actual reform and actual policy against gun, like fucking weapons of war, you know? Obviously the fucking thousands of children that are being killed in schools, that hasn't that hasn't changed their minds. Hopefully Charlie Kirk is the linchpin in that turning point to where they can actually go, oh man, maybe guns are bad. You know, I remember growing up in high school, I was pretty scared. I was pretty like year after year, I would get a little bit more scared, like, uh is something gonna happen? Is something gonna happen? Especially because I knew some kids who were very very weird. I don't know if I talked about it before, but there was a guy I met in middle school named Race. And Race, he was the guy. Everyone understood if there were to be a an incident. I don't know if I could. If there was a school shooting, it was that guy. You know, everyone knew he's culprit number one. And I remember year after year of high school, I would just get more and more tense, more and more anxious because I didn't know if it would happen. But I like that feeling that I felt. No one should ever feel that. No one should ever fear for their life at school because of the possibility that someone could just come in and just start fucking murdering everybody. You know. I think it's taken so many examples year after year, month after month, fucking day after day of so many victims of gun violence across all ages, across all like ethnic groups, across all walks of life. Gun violence is present, and yet there's still no plans on even like writing any legislature, any reform, anything. No one gives a fuck, you know? I do think that what happened today with Mr. Kirk, I do think it was a little deserved, you know? I think I think he's had it coming a long time, you know? Do I think examples like this should keep reoccurring? No. Do I think it would be an effective way to maybe steamroll and fast track our country's progression towards gun reform? Maybe. You know what? I've been thinking a lot, and it's like no, again, no example that has been given up time after time after time has led to any sort of reform. You know, you could kill a million children in their schools, and Republicans in our government would not give a fuck towards, and they would not care. They would not even try to solve this issue. They would go thoughts and prayers. They would type that on Twitter, thoughts and prayers, and move on. I think we're at a pretty insane point in this country where people who are so adamant towards their Second Amendment rights, and they're so outspoken with the fact that yes, even like we need guns, even though people will die, we just need them. I feel like I feel like at some point irony will just come to bite them in the ass, and that's what happened today. What happened today was very tragic, yet it's very telling about this country and where it's headed. And frankly, I still don't think anything will come up from this. I don't think any further political violence will occur from this. I don't think any further reform will come from this. I feel like this story will be forgotten in a week. It will be brought up in some debates towards about how liberals are violent or something, but nothing more will come from this. This will just be last week's story within a week, you know? Which is the most depressing part about all of this. You would imagine that an incident of this scale, of a shooter actively taking fire at someone who is, I'm pretty sure he was at a school in Utah, right? It was a school shooting. Again, another school shooting who killed a very prominent figure within the political space. You'd imagine this story would lead to something, you know, maybe lead to policy change, maybe lead to, I don't like literally anything, but I don't think it will. We saw with those two, I'm pretty sure two Democrats in Minnesota who were assassinated. Nothing came of that. Nothing came of that. I don't think anything will come from of this. I don't think so. What I'm trying to say is that guns are scary, and the people in charge, the people who have power, don't care that they're scary. They don't. They really don't. They don't care that the average citizen doesn't want to go out in public a lot of the time because they're fearful of of people with guns who are just gonna do shit. You know, I'm scared to go out to public place, like certain public places, not just out in public, but in certain public places because I've seen stories, I've read, I'm very scared to go to like concerts. Like I oh my god. Imagine like I can't even imagine that. Being at a concert and I can't find a safe place for shelter. Everyone's scrambling around and there's a gunman on the loose. I can't even imagine that panic I'd feel. And and there will be no change to that. There will be no change in that feeling for me because nothing will come of this. There will be no reform unless we have just a general admission or like I don't know. Nothing's gonna happen. This is gonna be last week's story in a week, and we'll all move on and we'll talk about the next big thing in the news. Gun violence is scary. No one deserves to be the victim of gun violence, but it is very ironic that someone who's very outspoken about how guns must be a staple of American culture dies to gun violence. Very ironic. Rest in piss, Kirk. LOL.